Hey guys, and welcome to the eighth Learn Gothic through Gaming lesson. Quick thing, gamers in chat rise up and type it in voice. You guys can see and hear me, okay? Um, I hope you can, because I really don't want this to be a situation like a week or so ago where I was chatting away and about things on the screen and there was nothing on the screen, because that would be very bad. Because our topic for our historical tidbit topic for this week is in fact Visigothic art, because I talk a lot about the Ostrogoths. It's worth talking about the Visigoths also. And so you should be seeing on the screen now pictures from the Guardazar treasure, and these are votive crowns and jewelry. So this one, the crown here, is a votive crown for King Regiswinth, and as you can probably guess based on just the almost impracticality of it, these are not crowns that you wear. These are sort of like offerings that are made to the church, and the symbolism of the crown gets worked into a lot of early Christian iconography and symbolism. So the crown is something that martyrs gain, the sort of crown of martyrdom, halos in a sense. So this is almost like a gift from the secular world to the church, by a gift by King Regiswinth, um, of this sort of beautiful gold and gemmed crown, and it just shows some really high points of Visigothic art. Absolutely lovely stuff. Um, Here also is a medallion, which gives us it's a very interesting type of artifact that we start to get in the migration era. So it actually does happen in some cargo cults around the world today, where Western coins get refashioned into jewelry, and this would happen in the migration era also, especially because the further away you got from Italy and from Byzantium and these centers of Romanitas, the more that monetary trade and the monetary economy sort of faded away. Money became less useful. So obviously money would be backed up in terms of its worth by the emperors, right? And the further on we get into the Dark Ages, the more that you sort of have sort of petty kings and power being very transient. The power of any sort of king to ensure the worth of a coin was no longer a guarantee. But what it was still useful for was as a symbol of power and a symbol of wealth, a symbol of Romanness. So you would have you would have kings minting coins that would get turned into jewelry, or they would take earlier Roman coins and modify them to function as necklaces and such, as we have in this coin here from Livius Severus, one of the Visigothic kings, and the spelling of his name with a B shows us the sort of vulgar Latin pronunciation that they used in Visigothic Spain. Here's another one. And most of these are from the British Museum, because these are little artifacts that I used to go and walk by all the time, because I would visit once a week roughly when I was studying for my masters. I loved it. So here's one. It's got an inscription of Vivas in Dale, may you live with God. So a magical charm that you'd attach to your belt buckle, which I find quite cute. This type of gilded radiate-headed brooch, this is one of the few things that actually properly changes when the Germanic-speaking people settle Western Europe. This seems to be a style very popular with the Germanic-speaking people for reasons that, it's hard to say. I mean, it's literally could be as simple as a fashion choice. The general trends that I've been telling you about in terms of what Ostrogothic and Visigothic culture was like was that for the most part they just assimilated to the Roman culture that they were moving into, and they just sort of, what was different was that certain elements that were already existing within Roman culture that the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths preferred got amplified when more of them moved into the region. And we gave the example last week of Vinodardus' excerpt from Apicius, and how he wrote amulum, which is a Roman, it seems to have originally been a Roman staple, a Roman food, and Vinodarius, unlike Apiccio, sort of puts it with every single meal. So this might indicate a sort of Ostrogothic culinary taste. In the same way, radiate head brooches, I believe they did exist in the Roman Empire before its fall. They were a fashion choice available to the Romans, but it certainly wasn't as popular as when the Germanic speaking peoples moved in. So this seems to be a sort of Germanic fashion trend, essentially. Speaking of Germanic fashion trends, here are two Visigothic belt buckles showing like some really lovely cloisonne and embossing techniques, and I quite like these little animals we've got down here at the bottom. It's one of these things that reenactors do. They when I was in the Reenactment Society at Oxford, there was, you know, we went to buy fabrics, and there was a rule that you couldn't have any sort of design or ornament on your fabrics. They viewed that as a historical. I'm like, no, they had like pictures on their clothing. God damn it! It wasn't just plain colors. This is terrible. But yeah, pretty little animals. I showed this in the last lesson on food. And it is just a sort of a vessel or a sort of a cooking pan, and it says in the Lord's name. In the inside it says, in the Lord's name admire Deo Church's handiwork, and the outside it says, it's got a quote from the book of Revelations, which is a bit strange, but there you have a lion of the tribe of Judah's root conquers David. Hallelujah. Very weird stuff. If you want to hear more analysis of what these inscriptions might mean, you can check out the previous video. Here is a fun one. It's like a little bit of a tombstone of a Visigothic priest, and it reads Gunde Bebius famus Dei vixit annus. So, you know, Gunde Bebi, the servant of God, lived for so many years. Both of these names actually, Deo Checus and Gunde Bebius, they're kind of weird. I mean, Gunda is sort of a prefix meaning battle, I believe. Bebius, we have no idea. They could have been V's initially. Who knows? Hard to say. Same here. Deochekos. No idea what it could be. Theochekos. Just don't know. Could be Gothic names. Could be Latin names. Very bizarre. They also don't seem to match up to any other names that we have. So who knows? Right. So this thing here, the Ashburnham Pentateuch. Absolutely gorgeous manuscript. It's all available on the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. If you go there and you type in Ashburnham Pentateuch, you'll find it. And what it is it's a manuscript of the 6th century, and its origin is hugely contested. So it's some people say it's from Visigothic Spain, some people say it's from Ostrogothic Italy, and some people say it's from even Vandal Africa. So from all over the place, but certainly like migration era Europe or Africa. And it's a Bible, and it's full of these illuminate these drawings in of biblical characters, but they're in contemporary clothing. And it's basically, I mean, these aren't quite speech, these are captions. So it says, here is where they offer their sacrifice, and then it says, here Moses, I believe, has built an altar from stones, and he reads the book of the covenant to the people. So this is a scene from the Old Testament, and what's really interesting about this is that we can see, like, if we accept some of the scholarly theories that these are in fact Visigoths, we can see a lot of fashion tastes in the people present, and actually we can see a fair amount of variety. So I wish I could zoom in, but I can't. But on these two guys here, look at them. They've basically got mohawks. Like half of their like both sides of their heads are shaved, and they've got this little tuft in the middle, which is just amazing. Like, you know, mohawks in a medieval stone texture. Who'd have thunk it, right? Some of the men have like not quite shoulder length hair, but just hair just below their ears. A couple of them seem to have moustaches. Like this one here, I think, has a moustache. Their hair color varies between like ginger and blonde and brown, which is interesting. And we can see also in terms of what they're wearing. Now, there is a possibility that they are sort of copying earlier painting models, which is true, but these models seem to reflect, they certainly don't reflect Byzantine fashion choices. They would represent, if anything, late antique Roman fashion choices, which get mapped onto the Germanic speaking peoples who come in there. So what I'm saying, I suppose, is that the clothing that they're wearing, right? And what's interesting actually about these guys, I shouldn't move the mouse because then it sort of took away the thing and you couldn't see. But if you look at their feet, they're not wearing any shoes. The men aren't wearing shoes. The women are. The women are wearing shoes. The men aren't. They seem to be wearing shorts, which I find very endearing. Like, look at that. They're little bros turning out with shorts. And they've got these cloaks as well. So they're wearing like tunics, shorts, and a cloak. That seems to be the standard male garb. And the priests, by contrast, are wearing these robes and they're dressed in all white. Now, the robes are quite interesting. So if we contrast the priest and their robes to the women, like the women are also obviously wearing they are wearing, well, dresses, stole. The women also seem to have a kind of cloak a bit similar to the men and the priests. The women are also veiled, and this would be a thing that married women did, so presumably these are the wives of the men in the image. The women are adorned with this like Byzantine style jewelry, necklaces, earrings, much like we see in coins and in contemporary iconography. Some of them even have patterns on their clothing. We can see this woman here has these like geometric designs on her undertunic. On her dress. So we have like a quite large variety of fashion, and we also have a lot of different colors. It's a vibrant scene, and so this perhaps gives us a glimpse into what's like Visigothic fashion trends and like just their clothing might have looked like, and I find it really cool. I also really find it cool that we have mohawks depicted from this time. So if any of you guys want to try it, go ahead. Here is something that's a bit more boring by contrast, but it's there's a tile from building in Visigothic Spain. It's decorated with a Cairo and the Alpha Omega, and it's underneath a Romanesque style of arch, which is seen in pictorial forms in the Eusebian canons of the Codex Argenteus, and it's in architectural form in several Visigothic churches surviving to the present day, which is what we come to. So that same style of arch you can see here in this church, which is San Pedro de la Nave, built between 680 to 711 Common Era. And this style of church building is actually just basically Roman. So these churches initially were just modelled after Roman basilicas, and the forms would change very little. They didn't yet have the architectural science or technology to build larger windows like they have in Gothic churches, proper Gothic, like high medieval churches, not Visigothic churches. So this has quite a few impacts actually on how lighting works within it. You just don't have that much light, and it really affects the atmosphere inside those churches. And this is the last item here. Sorry, I should have paused on that longer. This is another church, but frankly, it's not that exciting. I just wanted to give you a second example. And here we are. This is my favourite, and this is the part where I invite you guys to give your perspective. So this is a horse girdle bit. It's part of an identical pair, and what it shows is it depicts here a man with a spear, and he is stabbing this monster up here. And the monster honestly almost looks a bit like either a manticore or a sheep, which, yeah. And this monster is being bitten by a dog over here. And this dog's hind legs being held onto by this person whose body is overlain with the body of this long bird that's biting the man with the spear. So we have like this really fascinating, like, rotating image of 5, almost like a pentagram, of violence in this horse girdle. And my thinking is that it might represent a sort of Visigothic legend that has not been recorded and has been lost to time. And yeah, do any of you guys have any thoughts, any interpretations on what this weird circle might mean, what it might signify? You can type it in voice as well if you'd rather, if you're shy to speak.
I might have an idea.
Go on, Oxo. I feel like I'm going to regret letting you do this, but go on.
Well, so actually, I took a lot of classics courses when I was beginning college. I went to a small private school, and in it we talked about the fortune, like the wheel of fortune in life, and like this medieval concept of like going up and down the wheel of fortune, and how it's like not predictable and it'll always fluctuate back and forth. So maybe it's related to that.
I really like that as an interpretation. And actually, you got a rip. I think it's a very good point because the many wheels of fortune normally have spokes on the outside, and we can sort of see that here. It actually looks like a wheel. I really like that as an interpretation, Oxter. I thought you were going to make a joke, but like, no, this is really good. Yeah, I can totally see this. The symbolism of the animals and the people holding onto them still needs to be explained within that, because like the wheel of fortune, from what I've seen, it normally has like people standing around it or holding onto it, and these people seem trapped on the inside of it. But I actually think that it's definitely got a wheel of fortune association, and that's something that is they're trying to get across. Um, Perhaps it is something like that, of like the sort of a commentary on the vanity, the vainglory of these like secular violent quests to slay dragons and all the rest of this. Yeah, that's a really good point. Um, does anyone have any ideas about the sort of bird, like the like? I mean, it's almost tempting to look at it as this like half. I'd like to interpret it as a dragon, but we don't have any evidence that would lead us to that, because unless we think the dragons had scales, had feathers, which in art they don't really. Um, they also don't really have wings at this period. They're sort of like almost like snakes basically. Um, and it's tempting for me to look at these two at the bottom as almost like a sort of combined monstrous creature, but it's probably not the case. It's probably just that the bird's body is overlaying this person there. Um, I think certainly there's some kind of ideas about hunting going on here. This, the man and his dog, and with spear attacking this creature. Um, I think it's got something to do with elite secular hunting activities. Um, Perhaps it's meant to be a commentary on that, like a commentary on the fickle nature of the hunt and how it's subject so easily to the wheel of fortune. So, with us having had that scintillating, I hope, look at Visigothic art, let us go on to our workbook. Yay! So, we are on the 8th lesson, and let's go. So, one of the most important verbs in Gothic is maran, which means to be able. And it's quite different from the conjugation of most of the verbs, and you have to memorize it outright. Below is a chart showing its conjugation in all persons and numbers. Notice especially how the plural forms differ from the conjugations of other verbs. And I just want to triple check with people that we haven't done this in the last lesson. I don't think we did, but I want to check. I'm fairly sure we didn't do this. But yeah, I really should have checked that before starting. But mea maxima culpa. So, your singular form, I is mar, second is margd, third is mar, then magum, marguth, and margun. Very good. And in addition to the verb maran, this lesson will also focus on another one of the most common types of nouns, which are the feminine O stem nouns, or simply feminine O for short. And below is a chart for its declension in all of the cases covered so far and all of the numbers that are covered so far. So, what is it? Yes, so we have rasda in the nominative, and then also rasa in the accusative, and then rasos and rastos in the plural. The feminine O stems, yeah, it is the same in Nominative and the accusative for both singular and plural. Lucky you. And we have a few words as well, so new words. So agua, river, ether, earth, boca, letter, in terms of like mail, farda, traffic, huila, time, rata, language, runa, mystery, sewala, sorry, soul, sunya, truth, viuva, people, nehua, nearby, and vo, which is or. Right, let's do some sentences, people. Let's get hyped. Okay, so translate each phrase from Gothic into English. Doesn't mean that he hava erfa ist. Doesn't mean that he hava erfa ist. Who wants to answer this while I play some harp in the background? The harp will sort of amplify the awkwardness until someone gives me an answer. It's going to be my weapon of psychological torture for you guys. Okay. Thank you, Yoshi, for giving it in voice. Yeah, the text of it is in voice as well, so you can Is no one going to type out an answer in voice? I'll be so sad. Oh no. No one wants to give it a go? Doesn't mean that he hava erfa ist. Oh, okay.
You should just call on somebody.
Yeah, do I have to start like calling on names and being like very intimidating? Yeah, Yoshi has given an answer. So, my house I have is the Earth. Very good. Yes, my house that I have is Earth, planet Earth. Wonderful. We'll try one more, and if nobody answers that, we'll move on with the lesson. So, thos runas thos I haveth mikilos sind. So, thos runas thos I haveth mikilos sind. And there it is in the chat. Who can answer that? Rotherways, Diogo, you want to give it a go? Yes, exactly. So those mysteries that he has are big, and well done for remembering. The Thosi from last week's lesson. Wonderful, well done. So the rest of those, obviously, like you should do them in your own time as homework. It really helps. Because I can say, because I've been doing it myself, it really helps you get a sense of how to use the language. Because the goal ultimately is to get you guys in Vatani Gutisk, typing away, texting, having fun. And the best way to do that, to have those forms just ready in your head to go, is to have done these exercises and done them over and over again. And it'll come to you. So let's go on with the lesson. So another two of the most important verbs in Gothic, which also happen to be highly strange, are kunan and witan. There are cognates for both of these in Old English. We have some of them in modern English. So kunan is ultimately from the same root as our word for cunning, and if we think of like what cunning means, it has a sense of like being good with knowledge, knowing things. Like a cunning woman, it's like a word for a witch because she knows secrets. And then witan, we have a phrase like to wit, means sort of like which is known, to bring something to knowledge, etc. So both of these sort of can be loosely translated. The verbs kunan and witan in Gothic can be crudely translated as meaning no, but their actual meanings are distinct and they shouldn't be confused. So, roughly speaking, like kunan is used when you talk about knowing a person or a god, whereas witan is used for knowing that something is true. So, knowing a fact or a figure. And here we have charts for each of their conjugations, and they work much like they work a bit like Maran, which we had earlier. So you have kan, which is I know, kant, which is you know, kan, he knows, kunum, we know, kunuth, you plural know, kunun, they know, and then wet, which is I know, wet, west, which is you know, wet, he, she, or it knows, witum, we know, wituth, you plural know, and then witun is they know. So all of the verbs that we've given in this lesson belong to a common kind of verb known as the preterite present verbs, or simply pret for short, or pret à manger for fun. No, I'm kidding. Although there are a few verbs that conjugate the way that these do. These verbs also happen to be some of the most commonly used verbs in the whole language, so you should probably learn them quite well. And I apologize for the snap crackle me pops in the background. That is fireworks, because even though it's after bonfire night, we have to keep going somehow. Anyway, lastly, it should be understood that the relative pronoun thati is used in sentences such as I know that or I hope that, in which the relative pronoun is not referring back to a noun but to a whole clause. So you can use thati as like almost like a stand-in for the R word that. So I will ask for these two, which are down below. Can anyone translate for me? Cantu atan minna nawela. And Yoshi has typed it out in voice for you. Cantu atan minna nawela. So wela is just well, it's a cognate. You should hopefully remember this vocab from the earlier lessons that we've had. Yay, I see people typing answers. Hooray. Yes, exactly. So you've asked, do you know my father well? And yes, that is it. So it's Conto atan minna nawela is, do you know my father well? Yes, or you know my father well? Yes, exactly. Well done. And that's it. We've now come to no, your English is correct. Because you can also ask, you know my father well. Well done. We've done it. We've gotten through, and now we are going on, and I actually have prepared more of the gaskirins or the skirins for you guys. Bloody hell, those are loud outside. It's very annoying, very rude, unacceptable. So there's our fun bridal bit. We've gone through part 1, we've gone through part 2, we have also gone through part 3, and now we are on to part 4. How very exciting. So does anybody want to have a guess at what some of these words might mean? I think some of them are fairly obvious, but who knows? Maybe they're not. And some of these words we've already seen. Actually, we had one of these words in the lesson earlier. So can anyone guess these in chat? I will read out the text for you. So in methimis, meli, melia, melis, gamelins, boccaris, boca, bocos, grekisk, latinisk, in latinis rodida, bocos, grekiskos, mithbrachtis, namo, namna. So what this means is, sort of, I think it's like recite to me, write, sorry, meli is write, as in a command, like you write. Melia is I write. Melis is the indicative form. So it's like you are writing. Gamelins is writing. Bokaris is a booker or a writer. Boka is letter, and then bokos is like a book. Grekisk, who can guess what Grekisk and Latinisk are? And then in Latiniska rovida, that's a useful sentence for you guys to switch out when you're using spoken Gothic. Oh, okay, nobody's guessing, so I'll just tell you. It's so it is I or he she spoke in Latin. So it's like Grekisk Greek, Latinisk Latin, and then in Latiniska rovida is I or he she it spoke in Latin. And then Bokos Grekiskos therefore means sort of Greek books. Mythbrachtis is good. I don't actually fully remember what that is. So when someone's going to step in to help me, I will embarrassingly move on to Namo and Namna. And these are neuter words. So Namo. Oh wait, so Mythbrachtis is I think it's like you brought with you. Yeah, you bring with you. I think I'm fairly sure. So then Nama is sorry. Yay! Look at me being awesome. So Mythbrachtis is you bring with you, and then like Namo and Namna is like name and names. So that's like part 4 of our skillings that terminamos episodio 12 Teana. We have parts 5, 6, 7, and 8 to do for the upcoming weeks. How exciting! Does anybody want to volunteer to translate a line or two of these for next week, and then we can read them in class? Feel free to claim lines in chat and shout them out. Either way. And failing that, Yoshi's going to do line 4, so that is... Oh wow, that's a long one. So Gerda harvest Naskus Wisan Skal Bord Afsueva Melia Dumis Fera Feraus Managos Garechtinos and Graphium. Good? Yes, wait. Thumis, oh sorry, yes, line 3, yes. Thumis Usting, yes, very good. That is an easier line, so yes. It's shorter, so yes. That's going to be for Yoshi. Wonderful. So, in that case, thank you guys so much for attending. I will leave you with the mysterious image of our mythological belt buckle. And thank you guys for watching. If you have questions, leave them in the comment section. And I will see you a lot in the next lesson. So, bye!